Welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And on the show today, we are talking to Arun Natarajan, the one-man metal man Swiss Knife, who's got a new album releasing soon under the name Moral Collapse, a name that's been in existence for over 17 years now. Hey Arun, welcome to Horns Up. How are you doing today?
Hi guys, I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're okay.
yeah, doing all right, man. But, let's kind of talk about moral collapse because while I was reading about it, let's go all the way back to the beginning. All the way to 2004, because from what I read, moral collapse was you, Sandesh Nagraj, and Kishan Balaji, who were later members of the melodic metal act Extinct Reflections. So take us back to that time. Was it like most high school bands that you're going for world domination? And more interestingly, I want to know what kind of genre of metal were you all playing back then?
Yeah, we were actually doing this in our first PU, second PU, not even before, not even during degree college. Before degree college, we used to catch up and probably jam for 6 7 hours a day during our summer vacation just before we got into PUC. That was the first time we would play as a group, and we were all just learning acoustic guitars, and we were just starting off, and things were very exciting during that time. We used to go on and on.
Okay, so how did you guys come up with the name Moral Collapse? Who named it?
I actually came up with the name.
And what prompted you to name it Moral Collapse?
I don't know. That's the first metal name that came to my mind. And later on, my friends thought Extinct Reflections was a more acceptable name.
All
Yeah.
right, so that's where the kind of split happened. 16 years later, why did you decide to revive Moral Collapse?
Yeah, I did decide to revive it because Extinct Reflections was not anyway active, and that was kind of dormant. So I thought it was a good time to revive the previous name before Extinct Reflections, whatever we had. And nobody was using that, so I thought it's a good time to resurrect this act once again. Yeah, and I wanted to take an old school approach and do something faster and more death metal than whatever I'd done previously. So I thought this name was going well with it.
All right. Okay, so let's provoke you a little bit. Of course, now we're on the cusp of release of the debut album, 9 songs, around 40 minutes of music.
Yeah.
But first off, how would you describe Moral Collapse to someone who's never heard of the term death metal?
Hmm. Interesting. I would probably um, tell them that it's old school metal first, then probably it's got some hints of progressive metal, then it's got some avant-garde jazz and improv materials thrown into it. So there's not a simple way of explaining this project, I guess. But if I do want to sell out, I would probably say uh, death metal, old school death metal, yeah, extreme metal.
Okay, okay. Help us understand what makes Moral Collapse Moral Collapse. Like, what is the Moral Collapse filter of sorts? Like what what makes for an acceptable riff or idea or artwork or anything Moral Collapse? What is it that differentiates Moral Collapse from any of the other projects that you're involved with?
Actually, truth be said, I've just been involved with one other project that is Eccentric Pendulum, and there I used to have my peers, my bandmates, they would comment on whatever I got to the table. But with this project, there was nobody to control me or nobody to tell me this is right or this is not acceptable, or there was no set route or anything. So there was no filter actually. Whatever this is music just came out of me, and it doesn't have much edits, and in a lot of ways it doesn't have much filtering or editing going on. Even when we recorded this album, many things were recorded for the first time, and no other take would have been like the way it is right now, the way that you hear it. So it's all been a first time go and a very free improv kind of an effort with Moral Collapse, and it's just me just letting out whatever I had stored inside me. Probably not stored for 14 years, 15 years, probably stored for 5 years, you can say, in all honesty. Yeah.
All right. Now, since you talked about the writing process at Eccentric Pendulum, how does the writing process for Moral Collapse differ compared to it? I mean, having gone through this entire process, I have to ask: do you prefer writing alone now?
I think I do prefer working alone. I don't know about writing alone, but I'm not much of a team player. I realized that after 10 years that I'm not much of a team player. And yeah, as I told you, I need a few things done my way. I'm quite stubborn sometimes. So yeah, and this was the first time I worked without a drummer. I just worked with some drum lines in my mind, and the structure also was kind of 60% done. And Hans would send in his drum lines, and we would loop some parts, we would repeat some parts, we would edit out some parts, or make just one or two new parts and add to it. And you can say 60 to 75% of the work was done in the first draft itself when I sent the demo tracks to Germany for drums to get done. Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of Hans Grossman, I mean, he's a member of the band, right? Or how does that work?
He's a session musician. He's got many bands, and he's not tied to any single act, except probably Triptychon, which is his main gig right now. They play arena level shows. That band is quite a big band, and Hans Grossman is quite busy. Before Corona, he was quite busy with that band. And yeah, during the Corona break, there's not much of live gigs and things like that. So I did get lucky with having some time and having the chance to work with Hans Grossman.
Yeah, I mean, we've had him on the podcast, and it's quite great. And a drummer of his level, so it's pretty awesome. But the other thing about this project is the fact that there are so many guest collaborators. So we have to ask, I mean, did this start off as a list of people that you wanted to work with? And second being, who's left now on this list, considering the people you've got on this album so far?
No, it was not a conscious decision. You see, the problem is I can't play much of lead guitar and I can't play the drums. I can do everything else in a metal band, so I could conceive a lot of things from beginning till the finished product. But except the lead guitar parts and the drum parts, I was not able to. Yeah, so I needed some expertise uh, with respect to playing these lead solos or some avant-garde parts or some obscure instrument like saxophone or violin or things like that, which is not conventionally used in metal realm, Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, what is your process of sorts of working with collaborators? I mean, do you just leave the field open and let them do their thing, or do you keep working with them to get what you want from them?
See, I would usually call it the rule of three. I'm never happy with the first take anyone gives me, Even if Ingvi Malmsteen recorded a solo for me, the first take, I would be like, okay, is it really fitting the song? Is it really what I'm looking for? Is it, are we sharing some kind of a telepathic chemistry? And all those things would be running in my head. So I would say each time anyone sent me a solo or anyone sent me an add-on part, it would take three drafts to get there. But yeah, even with Hans, most of the songs I took three tries or three iterations to get to wherever we've got. So yeah, three has been the charm, and I've been able. I'm quite happy with whatever everyone has done in this project. It's been the third iteration, I think, that is finally released as the final album. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be a little cheeky with this, but were there any instances of a collaboration that, didn't give you what you wanted? I mean, For example, if you don't want to give their actual names, use like made up names or hide the name if you'd like.
I mean, there's not much to hide. As I told you, every time a solo was sent, I would not instantly like it. It would take some time for me to like it, or it would take some time for me to get used to that added on sound to the existing sound, be it Sudarshan or be it Kevin or be it anyone, except for Bobby's solos. His solo on track two, the first time I heard it itself, I was very happy with it, and I thought, wow, this is really some amazing level of musicianship and precision. Yeah,
Awesome. Okay. Now, on the press note, which I must say is very detailed and very well written, there's a statement which says, and I quote, a considerable portion of the oddball freewheeling music is purely improvised and played with utmost spontaneity, right?
yeah.
When you use the words improvised, that's the word that actually provoked me to ask you this question. How challenging was it to lock all the parts and the songs, especially since that approach and improvisation largely works best when musicians are in a room together and not exchanging files and digital communication because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think here I would say the metronome was the mediator, or the metronome was our uh, guiding light. I would,
Mm-hmm.
we would do many iterations and we would play to this metronome. We would sometimes keep the drum volume low, or we keep the metronome volume high, and we would record few takes. That's the beauty of not doing this on stage, but doing it in a studio. You can try it a couple of times, and uh, until you're happy, you can keep on trying. And as I told you, 3 to 5 times we would have given it a shot. And I wouldn't say every riff, but every bass line that you hear has almost been come up on the spot. And few of the vocal lines that you hear didn't even have lyrics, but it had some kind of a hummed pattern in my head, and that also was screamed out at the nth minute. Or it was a spontaneous effort. It was not anything planned. Yeah, I would shout out or scream out something, and then probably I would look for some words to actually resemble whatever I had shouted out first. I had a few songs lyrics were made like this. Few songs there were lyrics which were previously made, and I had to force it and I had to sing those lyrics. And there are a lot of what do you call process oriented stuff that is going on. Every song had a different kind of process or an approach to it, and it was all spontaneous. I mean, nothing was considered wrong, or we didn't have anyone, or I didn't have anyone telling me, okay, this is not right, or this is hurried, or you're not supposed to do it like that. Whatever was done was done. Yeah, that's what it.
Sounds interesting. So let's try and dive into that a little bit more, the process. What was
Yeah.
the most challenging song you think to overall lock? Which one took the most amount of time, and why do you think something like that happened?
By fluke or I don't know what, all the songs got done quite fast. If I were to do this with people in Bangalore, meeting them, jamming every day, it would have taken 2 months a track. But we finished in 3 months, I think, most of the tracking of the entire album.
Wow.
Initially, yeah, initially it was supposed to be a 4 track EP. Then things were so good and things were so fluent and fast that we decided to throw in some kind of I wouldn't say filler tracks. I would say non-metal, abstract, avant-garde kind of tracks, and probably 2 more tracks, metal tracks got done. So you got 6 plus 3 songs, I guess, as the final product.
All right. Wow. So that's, I still remember us initially discussing the project and you talking about an EP. So I was quite surprised that it ended up being an album. But,
Yeah.
we've talked so much about the album so far. So let's give the audience a sample of it.
Sure.
To pick a song that you'd feel is the best way to introduce Bottle Collapse, which one and why?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there are a few. different chameleon kind of sides to this album. Uh, some tracks are all out, brutal, and they start off very fast, and they they kind of have this fast pace going on. And some of the tracks they start off probably slightly slower. I wouldn't say slower, maybe mid-paced, and they would probably hint a more modern, melodic death metal kind of a vibe than an old school fast morbid engine kind of a vibe. So I would recommend, or I would tell, the best song to introduce Moral Collapse would be the second song on the album, that is Abandoned Rooms of Misspelled Agony. I think I'm quite happy with the song, really proud of it, and the way all the instruments came in together. This is the second time I was experimenting with saxophone and having some other kind of instrument in the metal mix, and I think Julius has done an amazing job, and of course, I can say Bobby has done a killer job with just a small 30-second solo. So I think this is the best song that anyone new can listen to, and maybe probably they'll get inspired by Moral Collapse if they listen to this song.
So here it is. Here's Abandoned Rooms of Misspelled Agony. All right, so Arun, what are the lyrics on this album about? Is there a message as such that you wish for this album to communicate?
It's fictitious. There is no message. Mm, I think the story loosely revolves around a mother losing her child, or yeah, something like that happening in a medieval setting. Something like Game of Thrones setting, where injustice is swift and things are still little old, and there's no what do you call? There's no proper system in place, or there's only like hierarchy and anarchy and the king's rule and things like that. Yeah, it's a big mix of all that. And I threw in a little bit of what was happening to humans with respect to Corona and things like that. Yeah, it's a big mashup. There's no, even though I would like to call it a concept album, I don't think there's a strong revolving concept. Just the gist that this album is about a mother losing her child, or the child being swapped for something, for some reason in bureaucracy. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, considering that a lot of the album was recorded remotely, swapping files across countries and continents, I have to ask you, will Mall Collapse remain a studio project only, or do you have plans to take it live? I mean, right now, live streams are the in thing. So, is that something that you're considering?
Definitely, I would like to take this on the road, and when things come back to normal, I would like to pursue playing this on stage. I'm not still clear what role I myself must uh, presume, whether should I play the guitar or if I should play the bass. I definitely can't do guitar and vocals or bass and vocals, so I need to get my team together, and I hope I can tour in Europe with the same lineup, with Hans on drums and not anybody else. With respect to India, I don't have uh, much clue when I will be going on stage, or when things will get back to normal, or when I can be in a mobile format, ready to gig. I'm not too sure about that, but hopefully in 2022, I have a stable lineup, and hopefully by then I do have a like another EP or another single or something else coming out of Moral Collapse once again. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool to hear. I mean, one thing I also have to ask you. I mean, uh, Sudarshan Mankad, right, from Infamy, he not only played guitar on the album, but he also engineered and produced it. So, how did he
Yeah.
become part of the whole project?
So yeah, in the beginning stages, we were all scratching our ass, as to how to get this done. What is the correct way of getting it done? Who's going to do the click track? Who's going to produce? Who's going to record? There was a big question mark for all these things, and we thought we should hire someone professional and things like that. And we started off ourselves, and we sent some file across to Hans, and whatever he sent back. They sounded quite good, and I thought we could do it ourselves. And that is how Sudarshan started producing or recording all my takes. Uh, we would sit probably in 3 4 hours. We would get 4 layers of guitars done. A few songs were taken riff by riff. Few songs were taken like minute by minute. It depended on how easy or how comfortable we were playing these songs. And bass was quite amazing to track. As I told you, it was the first time I came up with these bass lines on the spot, and few did not make it to the final one. Most of it made it to the final one, and I was quite happy with the percussive way I pursued the bass lines on this project. And this is also the first time I did record an entire album playing the finger style without any pluck drum or anything. Yeah, so Sudarshan has been a key person involved in editing, in recording. all the guitar tracks, all the bass tracks, yeah, and most of the vocal tracks. Some of the vocal tracks I did do it by myself because that was the easiest thing to do. Yeah, so Sudarshan did play an important role in this project, and it was because of his shrewdness and he knowing the software inside out that got us through this puzzle quite fast. Yeah, I'm in forever in debt to him.
Wow, that's great to hear. So one thing a lot of people may not know is that you also run your own label, Subcontinental Records, and Moral Collapse is the first metal release on the label. So do you have plans of releasing other metal releases this year or even later on next year?
Oh yeah, this is the first year Subcontinental Extreme has gone live, and I have a lot of good things planned out for this year, starting from April all the way till December. I'm focusing on three other metal releases apart from Moral Collapse for this year. One being Sudarshan's Shred project, it's called Tachyon Medulla. And we also have Supreet Mankan, who's Sudarshan's brother, who's got a thrash metal, death metal, something like Demolition Hammer kind of a project. I think it's called Human Broth. So we will be doing this project, and I will be actively participating in this project. Uh, I might also record bass in these projects for them, and I'm quite excited to see how these projects will turn out. I think both of them are EPs; they're not full-length recordings, and we have a very young, polished drummer called Kling Bien. He's played live with Vader and some other good European bands as well. So he's a very young guy, 20 years or 19 years, and he's been working with Sudarshan on his project. So I'm very excited for Tachyon Medulla, which will be released sometime in September, I think, if everything goes well. Also, apart from this, I'm looking at uh, re-releasing the Mind Snare album, which came out almost 10 years back, Condition Human. I don't know how many of you guys heard Condition
Fucking
Human.
ace. That's one of the most that's one of my personal favorite Indian metal releases ever.
Oh yeah, so that Anupam is right now mixing it again as we speak, and he's going to remix it, he's going to remaster it, and yeah, that is going to sound really good. And there'll be a new Ditchback release, a 4-panel or an 8-panel Ditchback release of the Mindsnare album coming out sometime later this year.
Good, good, good. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for Animesh's reaction to Mind Snare. But yeah, I'm glad. I think that album, it's been a while. So 10 years. Hey, Animesh, maybe it's time we get the guys from Mind Snare on to talk about it.
Yep, I think this will be a good time as any.
Great stuff, Arun. I mean, I'm glad to hear that some Continental is getting like into metal and turbocharged, if I may. So, thanks so
Yeah.
much for all the updates and the scoops, if I may call it that. But
Yeah.
we wish you all the best for Moral Collapse, the album release, and yeah, look forward to catching it live in the near future.
Great. Thanks.
And with that, it's a wrap on Horns Up this week. The debut self-titled album by Moral Collapse releases on 2nd April 2021. Check it out at moralcollapse.bandcamp.com or on subcontinentalrecords.bandcamp.com. And here's a question for all you, dear listeners. Have some new music that you know we've got to talk about? Send it our way. We are at hornsupod.com and on the Twitter machine at hornsupod. I'm on Twitter at Moani.
And I'm at Trend Crusher on Twitter as well as Instagram. Just search it up.
And this is Horns Up.
Horns up, guys.